to the left side, keeps the play alive. Now throws it across his body.
Kansas City has won their first Super Bowl in 50 years. Oh, home, Derek Thomas whacking the quarterback. He's running to the near side, cocks his arm, throws a pass on the fly in the end zone. Touchdown!
Intercepted Mark McMillan. 10, 5, touchdown, Marinos. Left side has a hold. Angles left, 10, 5, touchdown, Kansas City.
Welcome to the 65 Toss Power Talk Show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Kansas City Chiefs freaks, worldwide of all ages, thank you for tuning in on this lovely Tuesday evening, 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time. I am Shaggy Shane with my partner. It's going to make it happen all season long right here on Tuesdays. None other than the man from the spoken. You know him, you love him. If you love him, you better get help. My right-hand man when he's not on my left, the one and only Lance Quidwell. Lance, how in the hell are you doing this evening, my brother?
Better than I was just a minute ago. This is something you and I have been wanting to do for quite some time. We've talked about it for years. We've been a part of other shows. I've been on your show. You've been on my show throughout the years. It just felt right to do this, man. And I'm so glad that we're finally doing this, man. And it's going to be a fun show throughout the NFL season. And I'm ready for this, dude. I don't want to take any more time. I'm ready to just take off with this bad boy right now. Let's do this thing.
Heck yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, our first guest of the 65 Toss Power Talk Show is none other than your Kansas City Chiefs third-round draft pick out of Grambling in the 1986 draft. Number 98 in your programs, number 1 in your hearts. None other than the man, Leonard Griffin. Leonard, how the hell you doing, buddy?
I'm great. I'm just enjoying myself, all retired, looking forward to spending time with the grandkids and enjoying the rest of my life.
Well, Leonard, we wanted to play this intro for you, and here it goes. This is Leonard Griffin getting a sack of John Elway and hurting his ribs.
Elway has pressure, and he is brought down. Leonard Griffin got him. That is the 5th sack of John Elway in this ball game. And that is the 19th sack that he has suffered through the first 5 games of the year.
Take a look at number 57 right here. This is Chris Martin. All he is doing is that he is spying number 7. He wants to see what he's going to do in every place he goes. Watch what he does. He's not covering anybody. He's watching number 7. Now, the minute he takes off, he's right there.
2-minute warning to both ball clubs. We'll be back in just a moment.
Leonard, what do you remember about that sack?
Well, I remember he got up, dusted himself off, and I think he came back and threw about a 20-yard touchdown.
He did. He definitely, Leonard's keeping it real. Hey, Leonard, the reason why, we had you on last year when I was doing a post-game show with Harvey Williams, and you brought some expertise to that position. And what I wanted to ask you about was we're going to get right to it. The Chris Jones play at the end of the game. We're going to watch it here, and then I want you to break it down, and I want you to tell me if Chris Jones was at fault.
Watch Chris Jones right
okay.
here. He's a defensive end and has outside responsibility. He ends up ducking to the inside to try to get the sack. Nobody else outside. As I said, man coverage on the back end. So an easy turn of the corner and first down, and you see Little John back and forth right there, like, hey, we got to do our job. We got to stay true to our responsibilities. Going inside cost them this game.
Wow, some heated moments there on the defensive side. Chris Jones, an all-world player. Tranquil was the one who got the sack to put them in a position to stop on third down and get Mahomes on the field with just slightly less than 2 minutes for a chance to try and win this with no time.
You know, Leonard, Chris Jones is getting some heat for slanting inside for that play. And
I think Chris Jones is calling Shaggy right now.
it isn't Chris Jones. But I want you to tell me, because I'm a fan, and I thought to myself when the play happened, if Chris Jones wants to slant inside, then he can go ahead and slant inside. My question to you is, with Drew Tranquill coming down on him, is that fair to get that the criticism for that play?
Well, you know, it's a hard, I guess, way to answer that, because without knowing what the defensive call was, then it's hard to say was Chris in the right or wrong. Because if they had like what we would refer to a crash, then he would go inside. But Drew would then have to scrape over the top to replace him. So if they didn't call it that way, then yes, Chris was definitely wrong. So yeah, if you got contained, you got to stay outside. So whoever or whichever player had that contained responsibility, and only, you know, the head coach and the rest of the defense know who that was. And the way I saw it unfold on the sideline, I think Drew was perhaps right, you know, and Chris got excited and he thought he could beat the guy cleanly on the inside. He took a chance, and Herbert was off to the races after that. And, you know, that reminds me when we played San Francisco. Boza did the same thing on a little crash. He went inside and Mahomes took it outside, you know. So in the heat of battle, things like that's going to happen, you know. So you have to be able to come back. But that was the most critical time of the game because it was the last play, I'm thinking. And, you know, so they'd like to say one play can't cost you the game, but in that situation, that was the basically a stake in the heart.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I want to piggyback off things here, because I think you're right in that regard, that one play night may not always cost you a game, but I think bad practices and bad habits can cost you a season. And I think the biggest issue the Chiefs have through just one game is clearly on the defensive side. Obviously, the offense is going to have their deficiencies due to health or suspensions, things of that nature. But for the most part, the Chiefs' defense is healthy. And I think there are some questions to be answered on that side, and primarily at the pass rush. And that's why I said before the show, I think it's perfect that we're having you on here, because you're a guy that can kind of give us that insight we wouldn't be able to have, because you've been inside those locker rooms. You've been able to see those situations. From your point of view, from your vantage point, when you saw not just that one play, but the way that the Chiefs were unable to manufacture any consistent pressure on Justin Herbert, despite having two offensive linemen essentially out to start this game and start the season, do you think that's something that the Chiefs are able to fix, even if they don't bring another name in or finagle things extremely? Or do you think this is something that the Chiefs are going to have to overcome just by trying to score more points or make up it on the back end of the defense?
I think it was tough. It was the first game. You know, we have to work out some kinks. You know, Chris, he hadn't heard his name called all night. I think he might have had one assist on a tackle. So I could understand why he decided to go all out on that play and try to make at least one play, you know, which could have ended the game the other way, you know, if we could have gotten that ball back at that point. You know, so I'm not going to castigate him because I've seen him win games for us. So at the same time, that's what you want. You want that leadership. However, and he deserves to be criticized in that case, because I mean, you got to contain the quarterback when it's fourth and whatever, and you know, the game's on the line and first down at stake. Now, had the Spagnuolo call a crash and then had Drew scrape over the top, I think that would have been the best defense to call at that time, because as you see, Chris came wide open. And when he came inside and had Drew replaced him immediately to the outside, that would have been a tackle for a loss. You know, so that's how I would have called it, but I don't know. I was curious to wonder why he was lined up at the end position on that particular play when mostly he had played inside, so I don't know. I'm scratching my head, as to the reason why. And I hate it for him because he's too good of a ball player to make that critical mistake at that time.
Yeah, Steve Spagnuolo is known to give Chris Jones his freedom to move up and down the line, and Chris Jones demands a lot of time to play defensive end uh, in certain situations. He did extremely well in the AFC Championship game in 2022 when the Chiefs finally beat the Bengals to advance to the Super Bowl, where they beat Philadelphia. He had some key snaps at defensive end that game, and it was huge. I think it was just shocking to me that he was that one move slant side caused Justin Herbert to run 15 yards or for the first down, because Justin Herbert's not a scrambling quarterback. Like you said, the contain wasn't there. And I don't know if I thought Mike Dana probably should have came back outside, because wouldn't the guy that contain Justin Herbert for bouncing outside, wouldn't that be the guy who was next to him on the line, Mike Dana? Or would that have to be a safety
Well,
down the field?
and that's a good point. That's if you had a stunt between both defensive linemen. But generally, if you got a guy crashing in, then the linebacker replace him. Or well, that would be what we would call an echo, where the end comes down hard inside and the tackle loops around. So you could do it either way, same, result. So you either do it with a linebacker or you can do it with the defensive tackle. So same result. Either way, uh, that second guy would have been out there to keep him from running up the field. Now, and that's a great point, because then Drew could have been in coverage.
Yeah, and so I don't know where you stand on George Karlaftis. I'm a big fan of him. I completely agreed with the Chiefs extending him and paying the money that, quite frankly, I think that kind of a steal if you really look at the rest of the edge rush market and his age and his production and his consistency, the way he's able to always be on the field, never misses games, elevates his game in the postseason. I believe he was second or third in the league last year in pressures. And I think since he's been in the league, he's easily top 10. And I don't try to get caught up in too much stats, because I know that they can be deceiving. Players look better than what they really are based on numbers, because, a lot of times guys get, those fluffy stats, easier schedule, or you run, the score up, or you're behind, whatever the case is. But I don't think George is getting enough sacks. Like I said, second or third in the league last year in pressures, but I think he only had 8 sacks. We need to see George start to get more sacks. Chris is now in his 30s. Chris Jones is now in his 30s. Is actually, in all intents and purposes, a defensive tackle. You can't expect Chris to get 15-plus sacks a season. He's getting double-teamed on 78% of the snaps. George has got to be the one that steps up. Or am I wrong, or am I seeing it differently, or do you agree?
Well, George is still young, so he's got a lot of growth left in him. I'm very, very happy with the production I've seen out of him over the last, this is second or third year. So he's well ahead of most defensive ends at that juncture. So sure, I think not just on George, but the other 2 defensive linemen got to get it going as well, because they're going to double Chris regardless. So whoever draws that single block must win. And for whatever reason, I think we had 2 sacks Friday, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. I think who had one? Karlaftis and one of the linebackers. Was it Drew?
Yeah, it was Drew.
Okay. Yeah. So those were the 2. And, so I felt, yes, Karlaftis could have got him a couple of more times, but, you have 4 men across that front. So, if you're going to double Chris at the line of scrimmage, then they're going to chip on Karlaftis coming off that end out there. So they both probably pulling their fair share of double teams. So I like where he's at right now. I think, it was early, first game. I think they'll come around, hopefully. And that's last year I thought the defense carried us. So hopefully this year it'll be both the offense and the defense working in tandem.
Sticking with the defense here before we move along to the other positions, Leonard, the Chiefs gave up a lot of easy completions down the field. They weren't getting the pressure up the middle. A lot of Chiefs fans, and rightfully so, were upset about the loss of Mike Pennell, a defensive tackle who ended up signing with the Cincinnati Bengals. When you saw how much time Justin Herbert, how comfortable he was in the pocket Friday night, when you saw his play, did you feel that the pocket, the from the defensive line wasn't getting that much? Obviously, it wasn't getting that pressure, and the loss of Mike Pennell was the reason why?
Well, I think that has an impact. But at the same time, I thought for whatever reason, we kept turning Allen loose in the secondary. He kept finding that empty spot, whether it was a quick throw or he sat in the pocket for 2-3 seconds. So I think overall, defensively, you got to point the finger at all 11. It wasn't a well-played game by the group, so I don't want to single out the defensive line because I didn't think the secondary played that well either.
Yeah, from your viewpoint, Leonard, because again, I want to get your perspective on the Chiefs moving forward now. So they have a very tough challenge ahead of them at home, their home opener against a team that's now beaten them soundly in the Super Bowl. Right. We know this is going to be a game that matters to the Chiefs. Even though it's an NFC opponent, we know this is going to be a big game to the Chiefs, especially being down 0-1 now.
Right.
If you were to sit in the room with the Chiefs right now, let's say they're strategizing for this game. You got Coach Reed, you got all of his assistants with them. You being a former defensive player, knowing how the Eagles can send four and get adequate pressure against any offensive line, what would you tell them to watch for more closely in this matchup? How do you give them some advantages, some pointers of how to beat this Eagles defense, albeit with a banged-up wide receiver group? How do you see the Chiefs being able to do that?
Well, I would come in differently. I would come in with Saquon being my main focus. So I would tell them, stop the run first, so that's going to slow you down with your pass rush. But at the same time, you get Saquon contained, then everything, you force them into a passing game. That's when you tell the defense, okay, 10 years back and let's go now. But if you get out there and you focus on rushing the quarterback, Saquon going to have 200 yards rushing by halftime. So you have to take care. Well, you have to pick your poison, and I think Saquon is the bigger poison right now.
Kevin Capel says, Myles Garrett was getting triple teamed and still put Bro down. Intensity means everything. Leonard, do you think this defense, what you saw Friday night, do you feel like it lacks intensity?
Wait, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, sure. Do you feel the Chiefs lacked intensity on Friday night on defense?
Yes. I don't know what the weather was like. I don't know what the air quality was. Being in Brazil, it could have been very humid, but both teams had to play in those conditions. They both got there around the same time. So that's not making an excuse for either team. But yes, you have to find a way to raise that intensity level in spite of. And it takes one big play by any player to get the rest of them rallied up and, to get that momentum change and all of that kind of stuff. And we didn't have that. We didn't have it the whole game.
That's very true. I said my favorite player of the Chiefs draft this year, and I had a lot of them. I really like this draft class. I said that I think there's a real chance if and when Josh Simmons becomes that prolific left tackle for the Chiefs now and for the future, that this could contend with that 2022 Chiefs draft where they just absolutely cooked with those 12 picks, traded up, got Trey McDuffie, went got Karlaftis, landed Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, got Jalen Watson, some really good players. My favorite player out of this draft class was Ashton Gelati. I love this kid. He's a lot like Karlaftis, a bull rusher, a guy that, I think has real potential to be a real difference maker in this defense.
Right.
If Charles Omenihu, and I'm a fan of Charles, a veteran guy who bet on himself, says he wants to get that next big contract. He's 27, 28 years old. If Omenihu's got this situation now where he's got a young buck behind him that the Chiefs are obviously high on in the 3rd round, if he doesn't start putting in results, I could see a real opportunity for Gelati to jump him on the roster. Do you see that same thing, or do you think Omenihu's going to start clicking and earn that next big contract elsewhere in 2026?
Well, I hope Omenihu get going. I think he's a great athlete. I think right now, coming off of last season, all of their confidence is on the low end. So we need something to get them rejuvenated, so to speak. And, like I said, it's going to take a week to 2 to work out the kinks. I know by game 4 or 5, we ought to be hitting on all cylinders. That's offensively and defensively. So I'm not really concerned right now. I don't think the Philly game would make much of a difference. I'm more concerned with the AFC opponents, Baltimore, Buffalo. Those are the teams right now who look like one of those would be in the Super Bowl unless we could get this thing turned around. So now neither one of them showed any defensive schemes or prowess, but at the same time, both their offense are, top notch. So when you're scoring 40, 50 points, week 1, that's a lot of scores. So you're going to get better week to week, So I think Philly, their defense, I wasn't too impressed with them the other night. They gave up quite a bit of yards as well. And they allowed, for the Cowboys to stick with them, So I don't know. It's going to be quite interesting as far as that Philly, if they're going to return to where they were a year ago. I didn't see it, to be honest with you.
Right. Speaking of a 3rd round draft pick, you're a 3rd round draft pick. When you came to the league in 1986, Leonard, how much did Mike Bell and Art Still teach you as a rookie? When you came in, you're a rookie, you're just trying to learn. Were they a great influence, and were they helpful your rookie season?
They were, and that's the thing. Art had this thing about him, and I hate to say, he was anything of a negative influence, but Art was one of those players where he knew his job, he knew his responsibilities, so he could kind of mess around in practice, and but you knew on game day he was going to be top notch. A lot of people can't do that. You practice, you play like you practice, as they say. Not Art. Art had this remarkable ability to raise his game 10 times higher than what he practiced at. Mike Bell, he had a different type of motor. Mike motor went 24/7, but the deal was, as far as Mike, I had to balance that because Mike would burn all of his gas out of his tank early, because he was all out all the time. He wouldn't take a play off to save his life. But overall, your body would tend to shut down. And, at that time, he was on the back end of his career, so I took a lot of the thinking from him. I knew, how they prepared for the game mentally. And that's what I kind of pulled from. So, and not just them. Bill Moss, the same thing. I used to watch everybody in that defensive meeting room, and I would see what they would do. And I thought the world of all 3 of those guys. So I looked up to him, and even when Neil came in, Neil was the same way. He had a motor. Again, he didn't know how to pace himself right off the bat. And he would kind of shoot everything out, early on. And once he settled down and became that complete player, he was awesome.
That's where I was leading to, just real quick, Lance, because I want Lance to have his input here too.
Mm-hmm.
But did you take what you learned from Art Still and Mike Bell? Because in 1988, the second overall pick out of Nebraska is Neil Smith. Then
Right.
in 1989, the fourth overall pick in the 1989 draft is Derek Thomas.
Right.
Who did you feel like you spent more time with mentoring? Neil Smith in 1988 or Derek Thomas in 1989?
Well, I would say that's a tough question, to be honest with you, because both those guys came in ready. Both of them come from great programs, so it didn't take much for me to mentor either one of them, because to be honest with you, they knew more probably about the game than I knew, from a standpoint of the X's and O's, because they played in pro-style systems. And like I said, I felt we really took off under Schottenheimer. And both of those guys came under Schottenheimer. So I would say with that, we all learned together.
Mm-hmm.
So the mentor was Tom Pratt, the defensive line coach. He was the one who brought us all together, gave us that cohesiveness across the board, made us understand what technique was all about. Prior to Marty Schottenheimer, we were all out there just relying on natural talent and abilities. But when they came in and they taught us the technique side of it, that's when the light went off in all of our heads. Like, hey, if we're on the same page, we can be a lot better instead of playing individual ball. And that was the difference between the Schottenheimer era based against those eras prior to him.
I want to kind of put you on the spot here real quick, if that's okay, Leonard, but we know that things change so rapidly in an NFL season, and we're 1 week in, and I feel like there's just already so much chaos going on for the Chiefs. And we've talked a lot on the defensive side, so I want to talk about the offensive really quick. But this be my final question for you, because we've just been hammering you with questions. You've been hanging tough, man. We appreciate it.
No problem.
It feels like good news with Xavier Worthy. It feels like we're probably going to see him back within this next month, because if we weren't, I feel like the Chiefs would have probably already put him on IR.
Right.
We know that Rashee Rice is going to be back for the Raiders game, week 7. Mm-hmm. So the Chiefs are just going to have to tough it out. And the beautiful thing, and why I'm not going to overreact yet, is because of the fact that we've seen the Chiefs the last 2 years have to do this very same thing.
Right.
And they've been able to find ways to not only overcome it, but get to the Super Bowl still. And that's praise to Patrick Mahomes, even though the world doesn't want to acknowledge that anymore. But I still feel like there's this budding, and maybe it's just a narrative that's out there just to create a stir and just to create conversation, but I don't think it is that anymore. There is a sense that the Chiefs might try and maybe do a reunion tour with Tyreek Hill. And the biggest reason why that is because things not so much are going so bad in Kansas City, obviously, but because it's going so terrible in Miami, and the writing's been on the wall now for about the last year that he just simply doesn't want to be there anymore. We know that if we sat him down right here with all three of us and asked him candidly, do you want to play for the Chiefs again? He would without question say yes. And I feel like there is almost a need or unfinished business of sorts, even though they won a Super Bowl together. And, I'm, for the record, in full support of it potentially happening. Obviously, there'd have to be some restructuring. The Chiefs would have to make some stuff work on the money side of things. The Dolphins would have to agree to it as well, and it'd be interesting to find out what the Dolphins would want in return. Would they really have leverage, given the fact that things have gone so badly with Tyreek, and he's in his 30s now? I do think that there is a real potential here. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying that I think it's more than just a conversation to be had. I think it is something that could actually take place. Do you see it that way, Leonard, or you just think this is just show fodder and the Chiefs are just going to move forward with the guys they got and they're going to figure this out?
I think it's very possible that it can happen. Tyreek has shown that he's not happy in Miami and he wants out. I think he would take a pay cut to come back to Kansas City. I think winning another Super Bowl is at the top of his mind right now. So I don't think the money would be an issue for him. I think he would play for half of what he's making now just to be back in that organization and prove that he can make the top dollar again. So yes. Now, I don't necessarily know if that's the fix. Some kind of way, I feel we got to get Travis back involved in the offense. I think we threw to him maybe twice. We might have thrown to him 4 times, and he caught 2 passes the other night. So he's got to be more, I guess, visible in our offensive schemes. Even if you're not completing it, at least throw to them to make them respect that threat. And then, look for the deep ball. Hollywood Brown, I think he had 10 catches, but they're all little short routes. He's too fast for that. He ought to be on fly routes, and the Worthy injury kind of set us back because, and I heard the announcers make that statement that he was supposed to have been a big part of the offensive scheme going into Friday night's game. And to get hurt in the opening series, that threw the whole offensive scheme out of whack because they didn't have a backup plan, which, normally we would have something to fall back on. But I don't think we had an answer for him. I think the offense played well enough to win in spite of that, but I still think Travis need to be a bigger part of the show, right now.
Definitely hope that he can keep playing. What's he, 36 next month, Lance?
Yep, it'll be, I think, October 16th.
Yeah, or October 6th, I think.
Or right. You might be right, yeah. There was a 6th in there, that's all I know.
Yeah, right. So, we see a lot of these guys slow down, when it's when they get to a certain age. Mm-hmm. Leonard, you were the AFC Defensive Player of the Week in late November 1989 against the Houston Oilers when you had 3 sacks and 5 solo tackles. What was that again?
It was about 5 or 6 solo tackles, yes.
Yeah, and the Chiefs 34-0 win. I was at that game. What do you remember about that game? I mean, I was in the end zone. I wasn't a season ticket holder yet, but this was your shining moment. You were the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. What do you remember about that game, Leonard?
The crowd. Anytime that crowd is, I guess, cheering that loud, the noise, I guess, revenge factor, because I think the previous year Houston had beat us pretty bad, so all of those little, I guess, intangibles came back up. So it was, for me, I think it was probably my second start of that season, which my first start was against New England. Not New England, but Cincinnati, which I had 2 sacks in. And, so it was an honor to be recognized as the Player of the Week for that month. So I wish I could have gotten 2. I was telling you earlier, the 1 sack I didn't get against Boomer Esiason, he threw a touchdown to win the ball game because I decided to pull off on coverage of the back on the screen. And had I continued on with my pass rush, he would have never saw me coming. So I've always looked back to that game as that game that I felt that I caused. It was my Chris Jones type moment, with the exception of I had coverage on the back. I was supposed to pull off, but at the same time, that one time I should have disregarded the coverage because he never saw me in his back pocket. So had I went on and finished the play, I would have perhaps sealed the deal and we won the game.
Well,
how about you go get all the guys back? Because you said you keep in touch with a lot of the guys. Just get everybody, go on a field at some high school, recreate that scene, and just blow the hell up out of Boomer Esiason right there, and just make it official. Get some peace in all this. You know what I
mean? Hey, I tell you, and that's what I would like to do. I would like to just suit up one more time and replay that one play. And I'm going all out for him. You might have to send an ambulance after, but that one play, I'll get him.
Well, Steve Ledbetter, he says, ironic revenge factor going into this Sunday's game. All right, Leonard, before we let you go, we want to know, we got to get your prediction. It's the home opener. You've played in 8 home openers at Arrowhead Stadium. You know what it's about. It's revenge. Everybody from Fox Sports, I believe, is coming down. Isn't Nick Wright and coming early? Friday, Is it Friday, Lance?
Yep.
Yeah, they're doing pregame. Terry Bradshaw and Jimmy and Howie Long and Michael Strand are all coming to the game. They're going to start pregame about 2 hours earlier or 3 hours earlier than the game itself. So Kansas City is going to be the place to be for this Sunday's game. Give us your prediction for this Sunday, Chiefs home opener, Chiefs Eagles, Leonard.
Well, I see the crowd being such an impact. I think it'll be somewhat one-sided. So I'm going 38-24 Kansas City.
Woo! Woo! You're here first from freaking Leonard Griffin, baby. Hell yeah.
38-24.
Heck yeah. Well, Leonard, this has been awesome having you on our first show. Anything you want to say in closing, Lance?
First of all, it's a privilege. It's an honor. This is the first time Leonard and I have ever spoken. I was fully aware of who you were as a player back in the day, man, and I'm just glad to see you healthy and happy, living your best life as we talked before the show. The beard's looking great. Like I said, I can't wait to get a little salt in my pepper. So keep rocking that for all of us, man, that are still too young to get to that level. I can't wait to get where you're at. But I really do appreciate you being here before our first official show. This is something we're never going to forget, and we'd love it, man. If you would ever have the time or want to take the time, we'd love to have you back sometime, man, because this would be something we could definitely continue to do with you, man. And I could definitely tell that you still love the game and still love talking about it. And that's something we obviously, this is what makes us happy as well, man. So we'd love to have you back as well.
Hey, it was a pleasure being here, and I want to say to Shane, I finished the 2024 season as the last guest, and I opened up this year as the first guest. So I'm honored. There you go. I'm honored, and I appreciate you all calling on me and bringing me up on the show. And I look forward to the next time. So anytime you want me, just reach out. I'll be there.
Hell yeah!
Thanks a lot, Leonard. I appreciate you, man, and you'll definitely be back this season, man. Thanks
all right.
again.
But thank you. You all enjoy. All right.
The man, Leonard Griffin. Wasn't that cool, Lance?
That's a badass human being right there, dude. We were talking before the show because we had everything prepared and ready to go, and I felt like we could have just kept talking even before we went on air. Like that could have been a whole other show that we were doing on that one, man. So yeah, he's a great guy, and I don't know if he's on social media or not, man. If we do, man, we need to blast out his social medias and have the people follow him.
He's just on Facebook as far as I know, and Instagram, Leonard Griffin. You will find him there. All right, Lance, let's get to the second half of this game because the first half the Chiefs were struggling, and the Chiefs got a spark when when Patrick Mahomes hit Tyquan Thornton. They tried it a couple times when Xavier Worthy went down. Before we get to that highlight in the second half, Lance, what did you feel about Tyquan Thornton and when he finally made that catch? Do you feel like he finally worked his way up the depth chart due to the injuries and suspensions? Do you like that connection moving forward, or do you think he's more just a Demarcus Robinson type wide receiver? How do you feel about Tyquan Thornton?
I envision him now because I've kind of come full circle on Tyquan Thornton. I didn't think he was a guy that was going to make the team initially. I didn't think that he had a lot of relevance on this team because I felt like there was already enough guys on this team that kind of fit that mold. But he just continued to outshine every opportunity he got. He showed that he belonged on this roster, that he deserved to be on this roster. And this game, I think what he showed me is that he's just a far more athletic version of Justin Watson. And those guys have purpose on a team, especially when you're in a position like the Chiefs are right now, where you're clearly still a contender, but you're really lacking depth and talent at that position. And that's just on brand at this point with the Chiefs when it comes to wide receivers for a myriad of reasons, or just the fact the Chiefs love injuring their own receivers against the Chargers every damn year. So Tyquan serves a purpose, man. And I think that there was an opportunity for him to connect on another deep ball, but Patrick did miss him on that one. I think that just reps. Patrick is used to having Xavier Worthy and speedsters like that who are just a little bit quicker than Tyquan, being able to track that ball down. I just think there's a chemistry that still needs to be built between Patrick and Thornton if they do need that chemistry down the road. My hope, and this isn't anything against Tyquan, but my hope is that he's on the shelf as much as possible, because that means the Chiefs have the real dogs back, the guys that should be out there on the field. He's kind of a break glass in case of emergency type player, but it doesn't hurt at all to see him when opportunity was given and the ball was actually there for him to catch. He made the most of it, and I have absolutely nothing negative to say about the guy. He's earned he's part of the 53 for a reason, and I think even when Rashid is back, he's still going to be on this roster, and I think that when given opportunities, he'll continue to make the most of it.
And let's look at Mahomes running that football again, buddy.
Lots of room. Mahomes takes advantage and takes another hit, but delivers it to Jackson and the first down. Mahomes beginning to feel it. Third scramble for a first down, and here we go.
All right, Lance. We saw the backlash from the people that hate the Chiefs, and there's 31 other franchises in the NFL, so 31 other fan bases hate the Chiefs. I loved seeing Patrick Mahomes do that. He lowered his shoulder and made a football play. There's some backlash from fans saying, well, the defender couldn't play the same way he was playing. He couldn't be as aggressive as Patrick, and he couldn't hit him. What do you think about the play and that backlash he's getting? Because I love it. I love it. I mean, look, I got Patrick Mahomes stuff here. I'm a Mahomes nut. I'm the number one Mahomie. What did you take from that play and the backlash?
Well, what I took it was an NFL play. I think if Patrick Mahomes did anything that was in the wrong, I think he'd have been flagged for it. The reason why there was no flag is because that's just an NFL play. I don't know what people want quarterbacks to do, and in particular Patrick Mahomes, because I feel that he's dominated this league for so long that there's nothing he can do to actually win the approval of just the common fan. Because the common fan the narrative now is, well, we just hate Patrick Mahomes. We don't know why, other than the fact he just wins. Because back when the Patriots were winning and Tom Brady was winning, you can at least say, well, we know they have the cheating scandal, so I don't, it's kind of tarnished, it's cheapened, it's lessened. Like, these are cheaters. Like, at least you had that when they kept winning. You could say that. The Chiefs just keep winning and overcoming, and it's just starting to piss people off. It's actually pissing the NFL off because now they're creating rules on the fly to let Jalen Carter play. But I digress. Right. The point is, this particular play, there was nothing wrong because Patrick Mahomes is running out of bounds. And if we remember I think it was the drive before this, Patrick was doing a very similar play and got obliterated by a linebacker from the Chargers. So Patrick is doing something to protect himself. And according to Sam McDowell from the Star, he talked to Patrick after this game about this very play. And Patrick was quoted in saying, well, I needed to do something to spark my team. So he saw it as a dual opportunity here. I'm going to make a play that's legal to protect myself because this guy's going to probably try to blow me up. Two grown men running at each other full speed. One guy blows the other guy up. That's just how football plays. And two, my team's not playing with any energy, and I'm out here trying to salvage this game. Right. That's 100% okay with me, regardless if that was Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. LOL, that would never happen. But the point is, any quarterback that wants to protect themselves, both players are still within the field of play. It's fair game, homie. It's not my fault. My quarterback just totally murked you right there on the field. How about you protect yourself? Because it's still in the field of play. It'd be one thing if he was out of bounds and then chucked that dude with that shoulder. That was a fair game, fair play, man. So I have zero issue with it. And like I said, if the roles were reversed, it was Herbert that did that to one of the Chiefs defenders, I'd be sitting my ass right here doing the same thing, saying the same thing. It's 100% a fair play.
Right. Hell yes. I know you talked about this on the Spoken on Saturday. Do you want to talk about this real quick? James T. Kirk do y'all have that play where Pacheco ran into traffic when Simmons had him 15 yards down the field? We don't have that play on video, but we know the play you're talking about. It was disappointing that Pacheco didn't have the vision enough to look to his left and see that Simmons had the outside running lane open for him to run in for 15 yards. He took a mad dash to his right and ran into a pile of guys. Anything you want to add to that, Lance?
Yeah, this is the continual proving, if you will, of Isaiah Pacheco and what he is. Now, I've always told you guys, Isaiah Pacheco's exceeded all expectations. He's a 7th-round pick. He's not supposed to be where he's at right now. This guy should be, working at a car dealership. I made the NFL and I got cut, and I was a 7th-round pick. That's the story. This dude's a part of a back-to-back defending championship team and was the starting running back of said team with the 3 straight Super Bowls. That's something you have to continue to give him. But Isaiah Pacheco has vision problems. Isaiah Pacheco has instinctual problems. He's a burst energy type running back, but he gets hurt a lot. And this is just an on-brand type of play. Josh Simmons blows up that entire left side, throws his guy to the wayside like a baby, and then has that whole left. I mean, Pacheco could have moonwalked into the end zone, but decided to just steer right and pull to the exit last second and run right into a defender like Russell Wilson in a clean pocket when he just loves to run into sacks. It's the same type of thing, and this is the growing frustration I have with Pacheco is that we all love him. We all love the contributions, but enough's enough. Like I've been telling people all week long, and I was going to save this for Saturday, but I'll say it right here, right now. This is why I continue to hammer home the notion that Kareem Hunt needs to be the pace back. He needs to be the one that starts the game, because although Kareem Hunt may not have the physical abilities that he once had or that Pacheco may still have, he's a smarter running back. He has more instinctual fortitude where he's able to see where he needs to go. Because when was the last time you saw Kareem Hunt make a bad decision on the football field? When was the last time you saw him not make an efficient play? I mean, we were talking about, death, taxes, and Kareem Hunt converting 4th downs against the Chargers. This dude was the life of some of these drives. And it's because he knows how to manufacture yards. He knows how to make the ugly plays work. And although Pacheco's more of an energy guy, quicker, a lot younger at this point, Kareem needs to be the guy at this point. And it's kind of the bed the Chiefs have made with this running back room and not taking it that seriously this offseason. This is the best I think they can do at this point, or right now with what they have, is letting Kareem Hunt be that guy that sets the pace and letting Pacheco be that complimentary back, because he also can't catch out of the backfield deal. We saw him drop that easy gimme ball that Patrick put right on his palms. This is also the problem we have with Pacheco, man. So I need to see more from Pacheco when he gets opportunities for me to feel more comfortable with him to get the ball early and often in the game, because the offense is going to need more of a balanced attack while they're missing the receivers they're missing. And I don't think Pacheco's that guy that they can trust to make those kinds of plays when those opportunities are clearly right in front of him.
I can't disagree. Steve Ledbetter asked, what is Coach Reed going to do if Taylor keeps false starting? If that's false starting issue, is there anything that they can do, you think, to hold him back half a second?
Yeah, they can sit him and say, hey, listen, you're no longer in a position. Yeah, you might be the 2nd highest paid player, but you're essentially on a 1-year deal. And for the first time since you've been here, we have an adequate replacement for you that's also making money. Jalen Moore was brought here to be the left tackle. The Chiefs didn't know that they would have Joshua Simmons fall into their lap while also healing, unlike any other human on the planet. So now they moved Jalen Moore essentially to right tackle as the competition. And, Juwan Taylor is the better player, and he's the guy that's been here for 3 years now, so it makes sense the Chiefs go his way, and he is making $27 million. But Juwan Taylor has a real issue on his hands here, where if he doesn't get better and get better quick with some of these boneheaded decisions to the point where Travis Kelce is jumping his ass on the field, then he's going to get replaced and get replaced early. The Chiefs are not going to play this game. We saw the Chiefs take Kingsley Suamataia in the 2nd round last year. They traded for him in the 2nd round, and they sat him within 6 quarters. You don't think for a second, if they know that Juwan Taylor is keeping this offense back, that they're not just going to rotate Jalen Moore right in there? And I guarantee you Jalen Moore ain't going to make those types of mistakes, because we saw him step in for Trent Williams last year for 5 games and played very good football. So for the first time, Juwan Taylor has to really take this seriously and realize that the Chiefs do have that wild card that they can and will play if he doesn't get better. So I don't expect Juwan Taylor to keep this going. I do expect him to start playing better, because we've seen this. The Chiefs sat him for a couple plays. I think it was for a whole down last year, came back and played incredible football, and we weren't talking about him. I think that's what needs to happen here, is that there needs to be a little bit of a threat of, hey, dude, we're done here. We're done with the putting up with this crap. And I think Kelsey set that tone by jumping his ass on the football field and saying, hey, dude, I'm the extension of this football of this coaching staff. Don't let me see you do that again. And I think you're going to see a sharp Juwan Taylor moving forward.
Okay, Sleepy Face agrees with you. He says hopefully we put more in. And Trent Twidwell
says, my pops.
Father Twidwell, how you doing, Father Twidwell? What about Tyreek Hill? We talked about him earlier. Is there anything you want to say to Pops about Tyreek Hill?
Well, first of all, Pops, love you to death, man. Thank you for watching the show. He's one of our biggest supporters, so that's not shocking to see my dad's on here. But I've talked to some people today about this because I know everyone is wanting to know about Tyreek Hill. And look, for the record, I am 100% in support of the Chiefs were to make this move. Do I think it's ultimately realistic given the scenario of how the Chiefs and the Dolphins would have to make sense of the money? At this time, I really don't. But things will change very quickly because if the Chiefs want to make it work, they can and will make it work. And we know this isn't one of those pie-in-the-sky scenarios we have to sit here and theorize of what Tyreek Hill can do in this offense. We literally saw him do what he did in this offense. And obviously, we know that we all miss the high-flying, high-octane offense that was present when Tyreek Hill was in this offense. It ended bitterly. We've heard Tyreek Hill say some really stupid crap over the last couple of years. But I think that when you look at the Andy Reid model and the Andy Reid brand, it's all about forgiveness. If anybody watched that series that ESPN dropped on this Chiefs team, it was the embodiment of that episode 2 of Andy Reid was talking about the specific thing, about the man that Andy Reid is and how forgiving he is and how he tries to always meet the player where they're at. That is why Andy Reid is such a lovable guy. You never hear one person say one nasty thing about Andy Reid or one left remark about Andy Reid. It's because everybody in this league respects him. That starts with Tyreek Hill. Andy Reid took a chance on him in 2016 in drafting him when there was all the legal issues and he fell to the 5th round and no one wanted to touch him, and he became a superstar here in Kansas City. I think Tyreek Hill realized that, and I actually agree with our guy Leonard Griffin, who was on the show just a little bit ago, when he said that I think that Tyreek Hill would do whatever he could to get back to Kansas City. This all, to me, comes down to what the Dolphins are willing to do, because right now Tyreek Hill has $27.7 million in cap hits this season. Now, that money will go down as the weeks go down, and I think that if this is going to happen, it's going to probably happen right around Halloween time. His money will be dropped by then. The Chiefs will be able to pay him less money, but there's going to have to be a real restructure here, and the Dolphins, like I said, would have to absorb the majority of that cap hit. What the Dolphins would require in a trade, I don't know. I think the best they would probably get is a 3rd and maybe a late-round pick. Maybe they swap picks in the 6th or 7th round, but I don't think they have a lot of leverage right now because he's also got some legal issues with his ex-wife now off the field where she's claiming domestic violence. I think it was up to like 8 to 10 different situations. Now he's denying it. I'm not going to get into all that. All I'm going to say is there's a lot of distractions on and off the field with Tyreek Hill. He hasn't had a play that's gone for more than 30 yards in a calendar year. So it's not working on the field. He's pissed off. They're pissed off. They're about to have a fire sale. They just lost to Daniel freaking Jones. I do think this makes a lot of sense, obviously, for the Chiefs. Does it make sense for the Dolphins? Maybe not the second. They may convince themselves that they still have a team worth putting out there. But I think in about 2 or 3 weeks, when they continue to lose at a very embarrassing level and Mike McDaniel's on the verge of getting fired, I think that's when you start to see, hey, Tyreek Hill's on the trading block, Nick Chubb or Bradley Chubb's on the trading block. They're starting to move some of their older pieces. That's when you're going to see the Chiefs step in. But I will throw this one teaser out here, and I want to get your thoughts on it too, Shane.
What's that?
About the Tyreek. I would love to hear your thoughts on Tyreek, but I'm gonna tease something here, and then I'm gonna talk about it on our show Saturday because I'm gonna let the week kind of play out before I react. I think there's another name out there, a wide receiver, because everyone's talking about Tyreek Hill, and I get it. It makes a lot of sense, and again, I'm for it. But I think there's a name out there of another star receiver in this league that the Chiefs should probably be gawking, and it's a team that they've already made a trade with of recent, that they might want to try to see what the level of interest is for that player. But just for the record, I think that there is a real chance this happens with Tyreek. If it does happen, I'll be very happy because I think the team only better for it. What are your thoughts on it, Shaggy?
I think depending on what's going on with his ex-wife, his soon-to-be ex-wife, that he was only married to for 17 or 18 months, because if it's ugly, I don't know if Clark Hunt's going to want that hanging over her head, especially if she said that he was abusive to her. I mean, it could get ugly. It depends what happens, so I don't know if Clark Hunt's going to want to bring in, I know Andy Reid will look for the positives of Tyreek Hill's character and who Tyreek Hill is, but I don't know if Clark Hunt wants to bring in, since there's a domestic issue of if that, it depends what happens with this domestic issue that just broke, I think, yesterday. So if that gets ugly, then I don't know if Clark Hunt will do it. But if that gets swept under the carpet, then maybe. Of course, you'd like to have that weapon. You'd like to have that guy who's made his money, became the highest paid wide receiver in the spring of 2022 because who he is and what he did with Patrick Mahomes. I said to you on the Spoken that Patrick Mahomes made a lot of wide receivers rich. He got rich contracts handed out to Tyreek Hill, to Byron Pringle, to Chris Conley, to Albert Wilson. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Patrick Mahomes made money, but Tyreek Hill is in a league all of his own, obviously, compared to the rest of the guys that left as free agents as wide receivers. But I think that it depends what happens with this domestic issue lately with Tyreek.
I do want. I love everything you just said there. I do want to add one thing too, because I know people are going to be talking about. Well, the Chiefs would have Xavier Worthy back, Rashee Rice back in a matter of time. So is there really a need to make this move? And I say absolutely yes, because of the fact that we started the show off talking about the defense, and we know that there's real issues on the defensive line. And if this team doesn't get better at getting to the other quarterback, what's the only other option the Chiefs would have? Score more points. So if we're gonna be talking about this team and saying there's really nothing they can really do to change this defensive approach, and this is just kind of what they're gonna have to deal with this season, then you might want to add as many weapons as you possibly can. And another problem is the Chiefs know that Hollywood Brown's probably going to miss some time this year. Xavier Worthy's already missing time, and Rashee Rice is already missing time. So the idea of these three working together sounds really exciting and fun, but this is the one time where Travis Kelce is truly at the end of his career. You can't rely on him. He made up for so many wide receiver woes the Chiefs have had over the last several years. That's no longer the thing. He's 36 years old. You can't just keep going to that well expecting him to be, 2022, 2023 Travis Kelce. That's just not a reality. So You might want to add as many wide receiver options as humanly possible. And if there is a way to get Tyreek Hill or another star player out there at that position, and you can make it work under your current cap structure, then you have to do it. You have to do it because this team may not be good enough defensively to make up for things like they did in 2023 and 2024.
Right. Clay Windler asks, if Leonard Griffin suited up today, where would he fit in the defensive line rotation? I think he'd be right there in the middle. I think you could be more formidable foe for opposing offenses than Jerry Tillery. That's my opinion. I think I believe that he could get it done. What do you think, Lance?
Oh, I 100% agree. I think that Spags, the style of defense he likes to run, he likes to have those big freaks in the middle, and that's what Leonard Griffin was, and I think he still is, quite frankly. We just saw him on that screen, and it was intimidating the hell out of me, and we live about 1,000 miles apart. So, I would love to see Leonard Griffin get another. Like I said it. Go hit up Boomer Esiason and the fellas, recreate that play, and get some justice, dude. Like, make that thing happen. I'm all for it, man.
Okay, let's see this incredible play, which showed Patrick Mahomes' middle infield athletic play. He looked like a second baseman turning a freaking double play on this one. What do you think about this, Lance?
Dangerous throw, but we've seen him do this so many times and find a way to get it to his guy.
Parallel to the ground and flips it to Smith-Schuster.
This is going to sound so weird. But when I saw it live, I didn't even really have like an outburst reaction. It was just like, yeah, that's what Patrick does. I guess the only thing I really thought was, okay, they better win this damn game now, because that's what Patrick does, and no one else in this league, and quite frankly, I think in the history of this league, could do that. That's why I tweeted immediately, only Mahomes. Yes, Josh Allen's more physically gifted as far as the size of his body, and probably is a little bit, better with running the football, but he doesn't make that play. You know why I know that? Because I've never seen him do it. I've only seen Patrick Mahomes make that play. He's done things like that. And like our guy Clay Windler said in our group chat, he said another great play by Patrick just kind of pissed away because the end result of this game, like that should be leading Sports Center for a month, like top 10 plays. That should just lead it for a month just based on principle. But because the Chiefs didn't get the W, it's like, damn, it feels a lot like that Super Bowl play, that infamous play where he throws it, horizontal to the ground and it hits Darrell Williams right in the face. Like, just frustrating stuff like that, man. It is just,
Right.
you feel chipped because it's going to be on his career highlight reel, but there's always going to be that context of, that's one thing that sucks.
I was really proud of the way Patrick Mahomes played because it would have been easy. It would have been easy for him to get down on that because, things just weren't looking right, but he was pulling plays out of his butt. I mean, the flashback I had was the 4th and 9 to Tyreek Hill from 2018 when I saw this play. I know you will too.
Mahomes running for his life from Khalil Mack. Throws to wide open Hollywood Brown. Inside the 10. Holy smokes. On 4th down, wide open, gain of 49.
You gotta be kidding me. A whiff at the left guard. Quick pressure. He's got.
I saw that.
Tyreek Hill field that
yes.
He rolled out and threw it. Except it was 4th and 9 against Baltimore. This was 4th and 7. But just another highlight reel play of Patrick Mahomes. What'd you think of that play, brother?
It literally looked like the carbon copy of that play in 2018. I was at the football field. I was at Arrowhead Stadium, and I had a perfect angle of that 4th and 9 play to Tyreek Hill. And there's been like maybe 2 or 3 times in my life I've heard Arrowhead louder than that, and it's deserved because that was. And Patrick talks about it. That's his favorite play of his career. Is that throw on 4th and 9 against the Baltimore Ravens, and it makes so much sense because that play, anybody doing that one time is Hall of Fame worthy. For you to recreate that 7 years later to a far inferior receiver, no disrespect to Hollywood, but he's not Tyreek Hill, especially prime Tyreek Hill. That is just that is the epitome of what Patrick Mahomes embodies and what his greatness is and how hard he works. I mean, we talked about this on our show several times about how right after the Super Bowl, most guys, they take some time off, decompress, go out with family, deservingly so, man. You work your ass off, go to Cancun, go chill. 2 days later, Patrick Mahomes is hanging out with Bobby Stroop at the gym and working out and getting to work because this man's obsessed with what he does. Those are the types of plays that only happen because a man that has the talent of Patrick Mahomes is obsessed with the game he plays. This is why guys like LeBron play till they're 40. This is why Patrick Mahomes is going to play great into his mid to late 30s. This is why Tom Brady was still great in his 40s. This is why Michael Jordan was great. These guys are obsessed with the game, and they have that athletic prowess that no one else has. There's so many players out there that are so talented, but like Tom Brady said himself, what separates Patrick Mahomes from the rest is he puts the work in. Those types of plays, it looks fun, it looks exciting, it looks like, oh, that's just natural ability. True. But it's also the work you put in with that natural ability that sets you apart, that makes you make those types of plays, regardless of what time of the year it is, where it's at, what the situation is. He rises above them all, man. That's just like I said, another example of the greemess of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, Clay Windler says, remember when he did it against Cleveland and we were all 3 there? Yes, that was another one too.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, I remember.
Clay in the shadows.
You're right. And Brown Sleepy Face says Hollywood Brown sold on that play. All he had to do was keep running instead of looking back, and that's what he did. But Tailgater said Tailgater says, I'm just glad the dudes that caught up to him didn't drive his shoulder into the ground.
That's
yeah,
also
definitely that. And he went on to add the Raiders will finish last in the AFC West, and that was it, man. That was it was Mahomes doing Mahomes things.
Yeah, I felt like Hollywood Brown before the game was like watching like Demarcus Robinson highlights of like him moonwalking all over the field. Like, I want to do that. I want to give that a try because that seems to be a thing out here. So yeah, no, Hollywood had a good game, just by default because there was literally no one else to throw the ball to. And he did upset me a couple times, but given the nature of the situation and how the Chiefs had to adjust their entire game plan on the fly, I felt like the Chiefs found some real rhythm. I know we're sticking to the second half. I felt like they found real rhythm offensively. Patrick was unbelievably awesome. He led both teams, I believe, in rushing yards. This is, like I said, it's an embodiment of the greatness that he has. This is why, honestly, coming into this Eagles game, I'm not concerned about the offense. We saw this Eagles defense. If it wasn't for CeeDee Lamb having Lieutenant Dan's legs for arms, they win the game. They beat the Eagles. But because he didn't have any arms, they lost the game. And I feel that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the Chiefs to make plays with or without Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to find those opportunities to make plays. They're going to be. I think this is going to be an ugly game, man. And I think that you're going to see Patrick Mahomes make some plays. Will the defense show up? Will they make adjustments? That's the question we really have to ask here.
Yeah, Steve Letterman asked, is Norman Lott going to play? We don't know yet. The best thing to wait for is to see if he practices Wednesday or Thursday. Stay tuned for Thursday afternoon. We'll find out if he gets to play or how he's practicing. And same thing for wide receiver Jalen Royals. We hope that he can step in and play, but we're going to have to see how he practices this week. And then, we'll go for there. Lance, this has been an amazing first show with producer-engineer Clay Windler to my right, as well as Leonard Griffin still at home in Louisiana. Lance, I want to thank you for being on here. Is there anything you want to say before we wrap this first episode and Bad Boy up?
Yeah, dude. Man, it's been the viewership and the conversations in the live chat's been great. Cannot thank you guys enough. I know that Shaggy has a hell of a following, and we have our loyal followers and listeners on the Spoken as well. So we really do appreciate you guys hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. We're going to keep this thing rolling. We're going to have some great guests. Shaggy's the Oracle. He's the OG of Chiefs Kingdom. And, I know that a lot of people love you and respect you, man. So I know that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to tune in just for that. But we couldn't do this without Red Stripe Cinema and Clay Windler. We know this. We wouldn't have a show at the Spoken Podcast if it wasn't for Clay Windler. And Shaggy's been, one of the nearest friends of my life. And you guys have always been great to me. And doing another show with you, dude, like I said, we've talked about this for years. I've always wanted to have a show with you and I. We've done shows with other people, and it's always a fun time, you and I having that together. But to be able to do this together now is something I don't take lightly, dude. And I'm really looking forward to us talking about football for the rest of this season and really just having good discourse with the viewing audience and our guests and each other. And I just hope everybody has fun every single week, dude, because that's my biggest goal, is to make people think, hear people out, and to have fun in the process, man. So thanks for doing this with me, and I'm really excited to keep this bad boy rolling, brother.
Anything you want to say, Clay, in closing?
Go Chiefs!
Clay Windler says, go Chiefs. Once again, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks again, Leonard Griffin. Thank you, Chiefs Kingdom, and we'll be back here next Tuesday night at 6 p.m. Central. Until then, this is Shaggy Shane. Thank you, Sleepy Face. Couldn't do it without you, man. Stay awake for us and don't be too sleepy. Appreciate you joining us. And until next Tuesday, this is Shaggy Shane, along with Lance Woodwell and Clay Windler saying, go Chiefs!